Section 4 is to describe ways that U.S. transportation placards, labels, and markings indicate the presence and hazards of hazardous materials. In this section, we're going to talk about transportation placards, labels, and markings. The United States, Canada, and Mexico use placarding, labeling, marking system to identify hazmat during transportation. All three countries use the same source for their systems. The Transport of Dangerous Goods Model Regulations, published by the United Nations, also known as UN recommendations. Therefore, with a few country-specific variations, placards, labels, and markings are used to identify hazardous materials during transport are very similar in all three countries. Generally speaking, transportation labels are designed for non-bulk packages, whereas transportation placards are designed for bulk packages. They look similar and convey similar information. However, there are certain unique labels for which there are no equivalent placards. Under the United Nations system, there are 9 hazard classes used to categorize hazardous materials. Class 1 is explosives, Class 2 is gases, Class 3 is flammable liquids, Class 4 is flammable solids or substances liable to spontaneous combust or substances that emit flammable gases on contact with water. Class 5 is oxidizing substances and organic peroxides. Class 6 is toxic and infectious substances. Class 7 is radioactive materials. Class 8 is corrosive substances, and Class 9 is miscellaneous dangerous substances and articles. Because most North America first responders primarily deal with DOT or Transport Canada placards, labels, and markings, the unique UN placards are not detailed in the sections that follow. Examples of the UN class placard labels with brief explanation are found in UN class placards and labels. Placards, labels, markings, and colors associated with other systems such as NFPA 704, the standard system for the identification of hazards of materials for emergency response. The military markings are explained in this section, other markings and colors. The United Nations has assigned each individual hazard material a specific 4-digit number. This number is often displayed on placards, orange panels, and are certain markings on association with materials being transported in cargo tanks, portable tanks, tank cars, or other containers and packages. The 4-digit identification number must be displayed on bulk containers in one of 3 ways. In North America, the number must be displayed on the following container or packages: rail tank cars, cargo tank trucks, portable tanks, bulk packaging. Table 1 materials, regardless of quantity, from DOT Chart 15, and certain non-bulk packages, for example, poisonous gases in specified amounts. The Emergency Response Guidebook provides a key to 4-digit identification numbers in the yellow bordered section. Therefore, the 4-digit number is identified. First responders can use the ERG to determine appropriate initial response information based on the material involved. The 4-digit identification number will also appear on shipping papers and should match numbers displayed on the tank or shipping container exterior. Common reference materials such as the ERG do not list all 4-digit UN identification numbers. For example, the ERG does not list any numbers below 1,000. In the U.S., the entire list of hazardous materials tables is included in 49 CFR 172.101. A note to remember: NA numbers, which is the abbreviation for North America, are also known as DOT numbers. and are issued by the United States Department of Transportation and are identical to UN numbers, except that some substances with a UN number may have an NA number. These additional NA numbers use the range between 8,000 and 999,000. We are going to talk about placards. Shippers provide diamond-shaped, color-coded placards to go on transportation containers to identify the contents. Each hazard class has a specific placard which identifies the material's hazard class. A material's hazard class is indicated by its class or division number or name. Again, placards may be found on bulk packages, rail tank cars, cargo tank vehicles, portable tanks, unit load devices containing hazard materials over 640 cubic feet in capacity, and certain non-bulk containers. You may also see containers with more than one placard. This indicates more than one hazard or product present. Unfortunately, improperly marked, unmarked, otherwise illegal shipments are common. These shipments may include incompatible products, products that contravene local, state, provincial, or federal laws, and waste products shipped and disposed of without permit. The following are important facts that are related to placards. A placard is not required for shipments of infectious substances, ORMD, known as other regulated materials for domestic transportation only, materials of trade known as MOTS, limited quantities, small quantity packages, radioactive materials with a white label 1 or a yellow label 2, or combustible liquids in non-bulk packaging. Some private agricultural military vehicles may not have placards, even though they are carrying significant quantities of hazardous materials. For example, farmers may carry fertilizer, pesticides, and fuel between fields of their farms or to and from their farms without any placarding. The hazard class or division number corresponding to the primary or subsidiary hazard class of a material must be displayed in the lower corner of the placard. The dangerous placard is for mixed loads with the transportation vehicle contains no bulk packages with 2 or more categories of hazard materials that require different placards. Other than Class 7 or the dangerous placard, text indicating a hazard is not required. Text may be omitted from the oxygen placard only if the specific ID number is displayed. Drivers may have varying degrees of information about the hazard material in their vehicles. Bulk containers may have placards even though they appear empty until they are certified clean. With labels, they provide similar information as vehicle placards. Labels are 3.9-inch square-on-point diamonds, which may or may not have written text that identifies the hazard materials within the packaging. The Class 7 radioactive labels must always contain text. Most labels for the 9 hazard classes and subdivisions are essentially the same as the placarding counterparts. Packages with more than one label have more than one hazard or product. These containers contain a primary label and a subsidiary label for materials that meet the definition of more than one hazard class. The cargo aircraft only label is not associated with a particular hazard class. This label is used to indicate materials that cannot be transported on passenger aircraft. With markings, it is a descriptive name, an identification number, a weight, or a specification, and includes instructions, cautions, or UN marks or combinations. Therefore, which is required on outer packaging of hazard material. The HOT marking is for elevated temperature materials which can present thermal hazards in the form of heat. First responders must be extremely cautious to avoid being burned. Molten aluminum, which is shipped at approximately 1300 degrees Fahrenheit and other high temperature materials can ignite flammable and combustible materials, including wood. Working around or near elevated temperature materials can increase the effect of wearing personal protective equipment due to high ambient air temperatures. The U.S. Department of Transportation defines an elevated temperature material as one that, when offered for transportation or transported in bulk packaging, has one of the following properties: liquid phase at a temperature at or above 212 degrees Fahrenheit, or a liquid phase with a flash point at or above 100 degrees Fahrenheit that is intentionally heated and offered for transportation or transported at or above its flash point, or a solid phase at temperature at or above 464 degrees Fahrenheit. The review questions for this section is: what are the 9 hazard classes used by the UN to categorize hazardous materials? You can find that answer on pages 72 and 73 of the manual. Question 2. How does the U.S. transportation system of placards, labels, and markings indicate the hazards posed by the hazard materials carried? You can find those answers on pages 72 through 79 of the manual.